You really think you belong here? Brad Whitmore's voice cut through the soft murmur of the bustling dining room, sharp as the clink of crystal against china. Emily Carter's hands paused mid-step, a tray of seared salmon trembling slightly as her gaze met his, piercing and calm. The restaurant, the Gilded Lily, was bathed in amber light, polished oak gleaming, the scent of roasted garlic and fresh bread mingling with the faint aroma of expensive perfume. Around them, diners whispered, glasses half-raised, forks poised, sensing the tension that coiled like a spring ready to snap. Emily's jaw tightened imperceptibly, eyes scanning the space, noting the subtle cues, the way a napkin was folded slightly off-center at a neighboring table, the soft sigh of the hostess as she passed, the precise alignment of silverware reflecting the warm glow of chandeliers above. Brad leaned back, smirking, assuming dominance in his tailored navy suit, the faint shine of his gold watch catching the light, his minion chuckling behind him as if her discomfort were entertainment. He leaned forward, voice low, dripping with contempt. "I don't know why anyone would waste time serving someone like you." And the room seemed to contract, all breaths held. Emily's pulse was steady, though a flinch betrayed nothing, her mind cataloging the insult and folding it into a quiet strategy. The clatter of a dropped spoon from the kitchen went unnoticed. All attention was on her and the man who thought his words were weapons. She moved with precision, placing a glass of Chardonnay before him, her movements fluid, economical, yet imbued with an unspoken authority. Her eyes met his briefly, a subtle spark of defiance and intellect shining through, the faintest lift of an eyebrow hinting at the storm concealed beneath calm exterior. Brad's smirk faltered, a flicker of surprise crossing his face, unnoticed by the minion who continued to laugh nervously. Emily leaned slightly, voice low but clear, carrying the weight of unassailable logic and quiet dignity. "Perhaps you overestimate the importance of your judgment." And for a heartbeat, the room hung suspended, the hum of conversation reduced to a whisper. Patrons froze mid-chew, servers paused mid-step, and even the chandelier's crystal prisms seemed to catch their breath. The subtle power shift was palpable. Brad's hand twitched slightly, the corners of his mouth tightening as he realized the miscalculation. Emily straightened, her posture impeccable, exuding calm control, as she walked past him, leaving the lingering resonance of her words to ripple silently through the room, a quiet assertion that intellect and composure need no fanfare to command respect. And the air seemed to shift, heavy with unspoken acknowledgement that the underdog had, in a single sentence, redrawn the boundaries of power. Emily moved back to the service station, her steps silent, each motion deliberate, as if she were part of the ambient rhythm of the restaurant rather than an observer. The soft glow of amber light reflected off her polished black shoes and crisp apron, giving her an almost spectral presence amid the gentle clatter of dishes and muted conversation. Brad Whitmore, still seated, adjusted his cufflinks, a subtle tremor betraying his previous misjudgment, while his minion shuffled uneasily beside him, uncertain whether to laugh or stay silent. Emily's eyes scanned the room, noting the reactions of other diners, their expressions shifting from curiosity to quiet admiration, the invisible threads of respect weaving themselves around her without a single word more being spoken. She approached table 4 with a wine carafe, her wrist flexing smoothly as she poured, the light catching the crystal and sending miniature rainbows dancing across the white linen. A young couple smiled at her, appreciating the precision and calm that seemed to follow her like an aura. Behind the bar, the bartender caught her glance and nodded subtly, an unspoken acknowledgement of the quiet command she exuded. Every movement Emily made was both service and statement, a demonstration that composure and skill could outweigh arrogance and assumption. Brad shifted slightly, clearing his throat, eyes darting toward her with a mix of respect and incredulity. Emily approached his table, carrying a freshly plated appetizer with careful attention, and placed it gently in front of him, her expression serene, almost unreadable, yet her presence was undeniable. Without a word, she withdrew, allowing her poise and the subtle correction of his earlier judgment to linger in the air like a soft echo. The restaurant hummed around them, the soft murmur of conversations continuing, yet a ripple of awareness spread quietly from table to table. Patrons felt the shift, the invisible lesson in humility delivered through meticulous professionalism. Emily's quiet authority remained, guiding the space with an invisible hand, reminding everyone present that respect is earned through consistency and intelligence, not volume or status. Emily returned to the central aisle, her movements measured, each step a rhythm harmonizing with the ambient hum of the dining room, the subtle tapping of silverware against fine porcelain punctuating the quiet authority she carried. Brad Whitmore remained at his table, shifting slightly in his chair, the tailored folds of his navy jacket creasing as he leaned forward to regain composure, eyes darting toward Emily with a trace of reluctant acknowledgement. She approached the dessert station, gently lifting a delicate chocolate torte from the plate, the rich aroma of cocoa filling the air for a brief instant before she moved toward the table. Her hands did not tremble. Her posture was impeccable, the very embodiment of calm precision. Yet every motion spoke volumes about the intelligence and control simmering beneath her composed exterior. The soft clink of the plate on the polished tabletop drew subtle glances from the surrounding diners, a quiet audience witnessing the unspoken demonstration of skill and dignity. Brad's minion shifted uneasily, sensing the shift in energy, unsure how to interpret the silent confidence emanating from the young waitress. Emily set the dessert before him, a slight nod accompanying the movement, her eyes briefly meeting his with a calm, unwavering gaze, communicating more than words could convey. The light from the overhead chandeliers reflected in the wine glasses, casting small prisms of color that danced across the white linen. Yet Emily's presence remained the most striking element, her quiet command filling the space. Patrons at neighboring tables exchanged subtle smiles, their curiosity tempered by admiration as they observed her professionalism, the elegance of her control, the ease with which she navigated the room. Every detail mattered. The angle of her hand, the careful placement of utensils, the silent attention to the smallest inconsistencies, a language of competence that left no room for doubt. Brad exhaled slowly, a faint tightening of his jaw betraying the internal acknowledgement that he had underestimated her, that authority need not be loud to be undeniable. Emily stepped back, merging once more with the flow of the restaurant, allowing the subtle lesson of poise, intellect, and respect to resonate quietly through the space, leaving the impression that true power could be exercised without a single raised voice. The soft murmur of the dining room resumed, the gentle clinking of glass and silver weaving a steady rhythm around Emily as she moved toward the next table with measured grace. Each step was deliberate, almost imperceptible, yet charged with quiet authority, the kind that made observers unconsciously adjust their attention and posture. Brad Whitmore sat upright, his earlier confidence now tempered by the subtle power emanating from the young waitress, his fingers drumming lightly on the polished oak table as he processed the shift in the room. Emily approached a table of 4 business clients, carefully placing water glasses and arranging silverware with precision, her movements a study in controlled elegance, every action intentional, signaling competence without need for explanation. She noted the slight tremor in the hands of one client reaching for his wine, the brief glance of admiration from another who met her eye, all registered and cataloged in the quiet intelligence that defined her presence. Brad's minion leaned slightly forward, eyes darting between Emily and the other diners, uncertain how to react to the unspoken assertion of capability and calm control. Emily straightened after serving the table, her back rigid, chin lifted slightly, a faint curl of a smile hinting at satisfaction. Without arrogance, leaving the subtle impression that she was fully in command of the space around her. Patrons returned to their conversations, yet a hushed reverence lingered, an awareness that the young waitress had shifted the invisible balance of respect and influence in the room through mastery of observation, poise, and unspoken authority. Even the soft ambient music seemed to underscore the change, the chords settling into a pattern that mirrored the precise rhythm of her movements. Brad exhaled, a momentary pause betraying thoughtfulness as he considered the silent assertion of competence, the subtle but unmistakable dominance of presence over ostentation. Emily moved past him once more, a quiet ripple of acknowledgement following her, the faint scent of polished wood and fresh linens trailing, leaving a lasting imprint that true intelligence and poise require neither volume nor fanfare to be recognized and respected. Emily's shift continued, her focus unwavering as she moved through the warm, softly lit dining room, each step precise, almost like a silent choreography. The murmurs of patrons formed a gentle background hum, punctuated by the occasional clink of a glass or silver, yet none dared to disrupt the quiet command she radiated. Brad Whitmore observed from his table, the earlier arrogance in his posture replaced by a cautious respect, his sharp blue eyes tracking her movements, noting the elegance in her timing, the deliberate care with which she attended to each detail. Emily approached a pair of regulars, placing a carefully folded napkin beside each plate, adjusting the angle of their cutlery without a word, her motions fluid and economical, communicating both competence and calm assurance. Across the room, servers and diners alike felt the subtle shift in energy, the invisible assertion of authority that required no volume, no overt display, only the quiet confidence of skill executed perfectly. Brad's minion shifted uneasily, catching the faintest glance from Emily, sensing the gravity of her presence, the understated command she held over the space, the way her composure subtly corrected the earlier imbalance of attention and power. Emily straightened after finishing her round, shoulders square, chin slightly lifted, her gaze sweeping the room as if acknowledging the quiet admiration forming around her, yet offering no gesture of triumph. The soft glow of the chandeliers highlighted the measured grace of her movements, the polished oak floor reflecting her silent confidence. Brad exhaled, a slow, deliberate breath, recognizing that his prior misjudgment had been corrected not with confrontation, but with poise, intellect, and impeccable timing. Emily moved toward the bar, carrying a tray with a delicate arrangement of desserts, the light glancing off the crystal glasses and polished silver, leaving a lingering impression of precision and control. Patrons returned to their meals, conversations resuming in subdued tones, but the subtle lesson had been delivered. Respect is earned quietly, consistently, through observation, intelligence, and an unshakable calm that commands attention without raising a voice, and Emily's presence remained an unspoken authority in every corner of the room. Emily adjusted the placement of a small candle on a nearby table, its flickering light casting delicate shadows that danced across the white linen, highlighting the meticulous symmetry of her arrangement. Each motion was deliberate, flowing seamlessly into the next, a silent narrative of competence that commanded attention without demanding it. Brad Whitmore's gaze followed her, a mix of fascination and grudging respect etching itself across his features, his minion fidgeting slightly at his side, unsure how to reconcile the quiet authority the young waitress wielded with the scene he had expected to unfold. Emily approached a table of 4 business associates, setting down plates with a precision that seemed choreographed, the faint aroma of truffle oil wafting upward, blending with the warmth of the room. Her eyes swept the dining area, noting the subtle shifts in posture, the brief glances exchanged between patrons, the quiet acknowledgement of her presence without a single word being spoken. The soft hum of the ambient music underscored the rhythm of her movements, each step purposeful, a careful balance of grace. An observation. Brad shifted in his seat, the firmness of his posture softening as he considered the quiet lesson being imparted through her actions, the weight of her composure settling subtly into the atmosphere. Emily finished serving the table, a slight, almost imperceptible nod accompanying the completion of her task, acknowledging the silent respect forming around her. She moved toward the dessert station, retrieving a delicate plate of poached pears, the gentle sheen of syrup catching the chandelier light, and approached Brad's table once more, her presence understated but impossible to ignore. Patrons and staff alike sensed the continued command she held, the invisible authority in her poise and measured gestures, a demonstration that mastery of craft and intellect can reshape perception without confrontation. Brad exhaled, a slow, deliberate acknowledgement of the shift, his earlier assumptions quietly dismantled by the seamless confidence she displayed. Emily returned to her station, movements smooth and unhurried, the subtle influence of her presence lingering in the air, a quiet testament to the power of intellect, precision, and unwavering calm. The evening continued with the soft glow of chandeliers reflecting off the polished surfaces, the gentle clinking of glass and silver forming a steady rhythm around Emily as she navigated the room with unerring precision. Each step she took was deliberate, a measured cadence that commanded attention without speaking, her black apron crisp and her posture immaculate, exuding a quiet authority that drew subtle glances from diners and staff alike. Brad Whitmore remained seated, his earlier arrogance tempered, a faint crease forming on his forehead as he observed the seamless control she maintained over the space. Emily approached a couple celebrating an anniversary, placing a champagne flute with exacting care, her fingers brushing the edge of the crystal lightly, adjusting its alignment until it mirrored the others perfectly. Her eyes scanned the table, noting the slight tilt of the napkins, the angle of the silverware, and the relaxed smiles of the diners, cataloging every detail as if orchestrating a symphony in silence. The soft hum of conversations continued, yet the air around her carried a subtle shift, the invisible assertion of competence and dignity reshaping the dynamics of the room. Brad's minion shifted uneasily, sensing the quiet gravity in her movements, the kind that left no room for misjudgment or distraction, the kind that reminded him that respect and attention could not be commanded through wealth alone. Emily completed her service for the table, a faint nod accompanying her careful retreat, and returned toward the center aisle, her gaze sweeping across the room once more, noting the subtle acknowledgments in the eyes of patrons and colleagues alike. Each motion reinforced the lesson silently imparted. Mastery, poise, and intellect could claim a presence greater than status or volume. And as Emily moved past Brad, he exhaled slowly, a gesture heavy with recognition, understanding that the equilibrium had shifted irrevocably, that in this space, calm precision and intelligence were the quietest forms of power, leaving an impression that would linger long after the evening had ended. The night grew quieter as the last diners lingered, the soft glow of the chandeliers casting long reflections across the polished oak floors. Emily moved with deliberate calm toward the service station, adjusting the placement of the final plates with the same meticulous attention that had guided her throughout the evening. Each motion, each glance, each subtle shift of posture reinforced the invisible thread of authority she carried, a presence felt rather than announced. Brad Whitmore sat in his chair, the earlier tension replaced with a measured stillness, his blue eyes observing her movements, acknowledging without words the shift in command she had orchestrated with quiet precision. Emily's gaze swept across the room, noting the subtle signs of respect forming in the expressions of patrons, servers, and even Brad's own minion, a silent chorus of recognition for the unspoken lesson she had delivered. She straightened fully, shoulders back, chin lifted slightly, and took a brief pause to let the atmosphere settle, her calm certainty radiating outward in waves. A quiet affirmation that competence, intellect, and poise held more weight than any title or wealth. The air seemed to carry a sense of equilibrium restored, subtle, yet unmistakable, every corner of the room acknowledging her mastery without a single word exchanged. Brad exhaled, a slow, deliberate acknowledgement, understanding that the evening had shifted irreversibly, that Emily's presence and intelligence had redrawn the boundaries of authority in the space. as she moved toward the exit for a short break. Her steps were as precise and graceful as ever, the soft hum of the restaurant resuming around her while leaving a lingering impression of quiet power, a subtle testament to the principle that true influence is measured not in volume or ostentation, but in the unwavering, consistent demonstration of skill, composure, and dignity. And the room itself seemed to carry the residual respect she had quietly commanded throughout the evening. The last guest had begun to leave, the soft murmur of conversations fading into a gentle hum as Emily carried the empty tray back to the service station, her movements still precise and deliberate, a silent cadence that spoke volumes about the mastery she held over her environment. Brad Whitmore remained seated, his posture slightly more relaxed now, a contemplative expression in his eyes as he watched her with a mixture of respect and incredulity, the earlier tension replaced by quiet acknowledgement of the balance she had restored. Emily adjusted the placement of napkins and glasses at a nearby table with the same meticulous care, her hands steady, her gaze sweeping across the room, noting the subtle shifts in expression and posture of both patrons and staff, cataloging the silent recognition forming in their eyes. The soft glow of the chandeliers caught the polished surfaces of the tables, casting warm reflections that highlighted the precision in her movements, the rhythm of her presence harmonizing with the ambient light and muted tones of the dining room. Brad's minion leaned slightly forward, sensing the change in the room, the unspoken authority that Emily had established without raising her voice, without demanding attention, yet commanding it effortlessly through poise and intelligence. Emily stepped back after completing her final round, a faint, composed nod acknowledging the patrons and servers alike, leaving a subtle resonance of respect and admiration in her wake. Patrons who had observed her throughout the evening returned to their meals with quiet smiles. Servers continued their work with heightened awareness, and even Brad exhaled slowly, a deliberate gesture of recognition that the equilibrium had irrevocably shifted, the lesson in dignity and intellect delivered seamlessly. Emily walked toward the exit for a brief pause, her steps calm and unhurried, the polished floor reflecting her silhouette, a subtle testament to the quiet power of competence and composure, leaving behind a room transformed not by confrontation or loud declarations, but by the enduring, measured presence of a young woman whose intellect and grace spoke louder than any wealth or status could ever claim.